What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Lights Out F1 podcast. It's been a while. I'm Patrick. That's Claire. Um,
That's me.
just had the season opener. There's so much stuff I want to talk about from the off season, but let's talk about Bahrain first. Uh,
Well, the off season is much more interesting than the race,
we'll talk
sadly.
about it another time.
Okay. Oh,
um, the race. What'd you think of it?
I was so excited for qualifying. With the practices leading up to it and the testing, I was really hoping we'd have a different outcome for the race winner. But surprise, surprise, Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
It's just unstoppable. I mean, I liked that. Even though it shook out that it was like Red Bull and then Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Aston Martin, like even as the top five teams, but it still was exciting because we didn't know where they would end up mixed amongst themselves. And honestly, I didn't know what was going to happen to Checo, and he delivered when he really couldn't have. That was a real possibility.
Yeah.
He qualified like what, sixth,
Um,
I think. So he had
he
a
qualified fifth.
bad fifth. Yeah, he had a bad qualifying compared to Max. Obviously, taking pole and getting the Grand Slam. Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'm just over the moon that McLaren are not dead last.
Yeah, actually, their old rivals were this time.
Yeah, I mean,
How Alpine
we
has
don't call them
fallen.
that anymore. We don't even talk about them. We don't think about them. Alpine who? Sorry, you're at the bottom of the table.
Um, I think we could talk about Max and Checo all day. I mean, I think they got the same result last year. Let me double check. Yeah, they also got the
Checo
one
won
two
last
last.
year.
No, last year
Yeah.
Max won.
Oh, next race, next race.
Yes. But yeah, so I mean a 1-2 again for the Red Bulls. So not much to go over there. I think the most interesting thing to happen for them is that you know the car looks. I mean, Adrian Newey literally took the old Mercedes concept and he's making it work. um,
Yeah, what's going on with Red Bull is that like their car, I guess, but the results aren't interesting. But what's going on off track is very
yeah,
interesting. With Max's dad, Jos Verstappen, making comments about Christian Horner, the
yeah,
whole mess with Christian Horner. We don't really know what to think as fans.
yeah,
It's very there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I I really don't know what to think of it.
yeah. It's all an interesting thing. I want to see how it plays out before I make comments on it. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
nobody in any area ever wants to have like a workplace problem, especially on such a large
Mhm.
stage. So, um, I mean, nothing's happened as of yet. Horner got cleared, and then he got uncleared because things got leaked. And there's a
They're
lot of
looking
different,
kind of fake though. Some
yeah,
some of the stuff I saw it was looking pretty fake.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But then there's competing like rumors going on that like he he was supposed to resign. Like people want him to resign in Red Bull. Like so I don't know how he's gonna stay.
yeah, I don't know.
I,
But again, like it's something
it's
that we're just
too
gonna have
it's
to
too
wait to
early.
see.
We don't know what we're talking about. We don't know what's
Yeah.
going on.
One thing I do want to talk about though, pertaining to qualifying actually, is Charles could have actually qualified on
Oh yeah.
pole. Um, to put it into perspective, the cars are about 1 second faster than last year. Around this time last year, Max had a qualifying time in Q3 of 129.7, and this year he got a
Mm-hmm.
129.1. But to put
In
it,
Q1. Yeah.
no, in Q3, it was Q3. So
Q3.
it's about
Q3.
6 tenths faster. The
Mm-hmm.
interesting part about this is that Max's time to get pole in Q3 was a 129.179, and Charles's
Mm-hmm.
Q2 time this year was a 129.165. So Charles is
Yeah, I
actually
see that.
14 thousandths faster than
Yeah.
Max, but he couldn't put the lap together the third time around.
At the right time.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's the name of the game.
yeah. Moving down, Ferrari. I mean, Carlos is making a name.
He is, yeah, letting them know that they chose wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. For me,
yeah.
it's
I
always
mean,
been a case of I
great
think
drive.
Carlos is easily like one of my favorite drivers, and I think the way he gets treated almost every team he goes to is criminal. Um,
Yeah.
he, quite frankly, I don't see Charles as that much better, and like that's highly controversial. A lot of people are gonna be like, Charles, the next big thing. It's like he would be, but
He would have, could have been, but he didn't fulfill his potential
yeah.
at the right time.
Obviously,
He
it's
had a
also a thing
shot.
with Ferrari, but it's like people like he's 2 seasons up on Carlos now. Sure, cool. My whole thing is Charles didn't win at all last year. Didn't even get close to it, and Carlos was the
Mm-hmm.
only person to take a win off Red Bull. Carlos also
Mm-hmm.
is easily the more consistent driver, where most of his DNFs come from Ferrari failures rather than his own mistakes, and most of
Yeah.
Charles' failures have come from actual mistakes. And so I don't know, them giving him a long-term contract, like regardless of how much he loves Ferrari, and regardless of how good people see his potential as, he's been in Formula One since 2018. Yeah, 2018 when
I
he was with
think that
Alfa
sounds
Romeo.
great.
He's in his sixth season of Formula One. Like I think we can stop talking about potential and actually see him where he is. He keeps making mistakes, and like you don't see drivers like Lando or George or Max or even Oscar making the mistakes that Charles does.
Maybe George.
Yeah, yeah. Georgia's second half of the year performances for Mercedes last year were questionable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but you don't see like those kinds of mistakes out of other people from like the same generation of drivers. So I think we can stop hyping up Charles and see it for what it is. I think Ferrari just they did not and still aren't treating Carlos very well.
Yeah. I I don't really. I mean, I know what they were thinking going after Lewis, but replacing Carlos after he had a great season last year, and he's still like he's such a competitive driver. It's
Yeah,
it's it's hard to believe that they went with that decision. Um, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a move for the world championship.
yeah. And when you look at
If
it,
you put Carlos and Lewis together, that would have been really interesting.
yeah, but you also need like not calling him young, but you also do need that slightly younger talent. I think Carlos comes from a place of rather than talent. I think Carlos comes from a place of a lot of experience with a lot of different cars.
Mm,
I think when it comes to experience, Carlos's experience well outweighs Charles' talent in my mind. And
yeah,
last year, I know they were like technically Charles won by points, but if you look at it by points, he only won by six.
yeah, that was just one Ferrari DNF out of Carlos's control.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Also, if it weren't for the Vegas thing, uh,
Yes, yes, that still
I
gets
think
me.
it's a sour taste in
It's
everybody's
not
mouth.
upsetting. Upsetting. They should have handled that a little bit better. They had
Yeah,
the discretion to do so, and
yeah.
they didn't.
Um, moving down, it looks like we have a battle between Mercedes and McLaren starting up this year, which didn't think I'd be
Mm,
hearing that early.
yeah. No, I think that Mercedes will fix their whatever
It
was
was an
wrong with their
engine
engine,
cooling
with their
problem.
power. Yeah, like they were having overheating issues, and yeah, they'll fix that in the coming races. And I think
You shouldn't be
until
hoping for that though.
McLaren
You want
gets,
McLaren to be
I
better than
know I
them.
don't want to. I just know that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
They're going to fix it, and they're going to be fighting for with Ferrari, and McLaren won't show that same level of pace. I think until they have their scheduled first upgrades.
yeah. Do you think it's kind
But I
of
really do want to see them fighting for
yeah?
the podium places.
Do you think it's kind of interesting that well, not interesting, probably frustrating a little bit, maybe, that McLaren now 2 years in a row are late on their first upgrade of the year?
Yeah, I mean, yes. As a fan, yes.
Hmm.
As someone who's like a little bit more into the sport than like an average fan, like you can see how like winter break feels long, but it really isn't that long. So
I know shorter this year.
yeah, so I mean, I can completely understand that these teams like don't aren't completely ready for the beginning of the season. they should they don't really get enough time with testing to get it all right for those couple of days,
I kind of
and
like it
then
this way though.
they're just thrown into the first couple of races as like preseason in like football or something.
I wouldn't
I
say
kind
that
of see it
much.
as
I
that.
think like okay, here's the thing.
And it's a big advantage to Red Bull, and not any of the teams that get it right away. But like for a lot of the teams, like I'd say over half the teams, they're hoping on future upgrades because they didn't have enough time in the off season because they're not ahead of the curve of producing their next year's car like way ahead. I don't know.
Well, yeah, there's
It
always gonna be a difference in production, but also like looking at it kind of objectively, like you see Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, the top three, and then underneath them, McLaren, Aston Martin. Both McLaren and Aston
mm,
Martin are late, and it's not like they're low functioning teams. These are teams that also operate at the cost cap, right? So
yeah,
I don't
it
think it's a problem of like trying to catch Red Bull. So much the problem is trying to make sure you come in with your parts, right?
yeah. I mean, it's hard to make these parts
Yeah.
and make sure they're not defective, which McLaren's already having an issue with.
Oh yeah.
Headache
Yes.
central. Starting off the season bad.
Yes.
Lando had to replace a couple parts.
And very important
Control
parts.
electronics.
And his energy store, which you only get two of those in a season. So the fact that they already used one of
It's
them,
such a long season. He's gonna get a
yes,
penalty someplace.
I think we can expect him to take that penalty at one of like the tracks that they're probably expecting to be bad at. So maybe like it can't be super late in the year. So let's say like a Monza, maybe a Japan.
Hmm.
But yeah, they're gonna have to take that penalty at some point because that their one energy store cannot get you through a season. You'll be lucky if it gets you through half.
Yeah, they might need to like readjust the regulations on allotted parts with this long of a season.
I kind of like it
Or
though.
I don't know. You just like the penalties. We didn't really
It's
even
not
see
so
the
much.
penalties come in play too much
We did though.
last year.
Last year we got to see like okay, I don't want a 2022 situation. And 2022 was when they
Mm-hmm.
had more parts. Like 2022, they
Mm-hmm.
actually had one more of each part, and they were suffering more penalties. Probably because they were running the engine levels higher, right? But
Yeah.
last year, I think people were a lot more strategic about when they were taking their engine penalties, which it's kind of cool that you're now adding another strategic aspect to the sport, right? It's no longer just tire management,
Good stuff.
cars.
Yeah.
It's now not pit stops, but also you get to engine management. So I think that's kind of cool.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
moving down the grid.
I was just glad that Norris finished ahead of Piastri because as a McLaren fan, as a Lando fan, I've got on his shoey
Yeah,
from
2020,
the 1-2 with Daniel. Yeah,
2021.
2021. And I have to keep hearing people say, "Oh, I think Oscar Piastri's gonna get his first win before Lando, like first real race win," and that is like that's a real fear that Lando has and that Lando fans have.
Yeah,
Um, so at least he just finished ahead of him in the first race. That's a good little start. It's only a couple 4-point difference, but that's good.
yeah. Moving down, I think one of the drives that went kind of under the radar that I actually really enjoyed is,
Stroll,
yeah, coming
yeah,
from I think the back of the grid.
yeah. He didn't start exactly at the end, but pretty far back. Let's see what happened. Oh no.
He
I mean, he
qualified
started
12th.
12th, but then
Oh,
he
he got knocked.
in the first
Yeah,
lap got hit by Magnussen,
yes. He got
Valtteri,
pushed
or one of
twice
the
in the
two.
back by Magnussen,
Yeah,
and was getting pushed in the back by Valtteri.
yeah. So he came back and got 10th, which was a crazy good drive back that just kind of happened out of the blue with
Yeah.
one of the pit stop strategies. I didn't really see any overtaking. I'm not sure if he did or not, but I'm sure at some point he had to do some overtakes.
Probably, yeah. But also
Probably,
just
but
really
it's
good
probably
strategy
just
on
pit
their
stop.
part.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, Alonso ran a clean race and only, ended up 20 seconds ahead of him or something like that.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I think Aston Martin, um, I don't want to say they're like that definitive fifth place team, but it kind of seems like that's,
No, they're going to heat up.
yeah, they are, but also like they're probably gonna heat up right before or right after McLaren do, and you're
Hmm.
probably gonna like it,
We'll see
it'll,
some good battles then, hopefully.
okay, so. You know how like last year we had that definitive sixth place, right? Alpine was or seventh
Mhm.
place, sorry. Sixth. Alpine
Sixth.
was stock six. Like nobody was underneath them close, nobody above them was close.
Yeah, are you thinking Aston Martin's going to fill that?
I think they'll be closer to fifth place than Alpine was to seventh place last year. I think that'll be much closer. So another
Mm-hmm.
team moving up into that upper midfield, if you will. I don't think they'll
Mm-hmm.
be falling backwards though.
Okay. And Joe had a really good race.
Yeah, if you gotta feel kind
Was
of bad
safe.
that he was outside of the points
Yes, but I mean,
in that car too. That Sauber looks
it's not my
awful.
favorite. It's not my favorite. It's just a green screen.
Yeah. Um,
And then Valtteri with his really slow stop, but not his
icky two
slowest.
second pit stop.
Not his slowest.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
moving backwards, K Mag. Oh, I want to talk about this battle because this is something that actually like
Okay.
got me heated. So
Yeah.
it wasn't even for points, but K Mag was in 12th, Danny Rick was in 14th, and Yuki was in 13th. Yuki was faster than Danny Rick through his entire through his entire soft tire stint. And Yuki was on hard tires, older hard tires,
Yes.
and he was faster. And they made them switch positions. Making them switch positions while
First
Max,
race, no
yeah,
points.
while
Very
Max was
strange.
coming through to lap everybody, so they had to slow down
Yeah.
anyways. And then Yuki had to slow down again to let Danny Rick pass. So there was a 2 second buffer to Magnussen now. They caught back
Mm-hmm.
up to him. Danny Rick had nothing left. Didn't let Yuki pass again, and didn't let Yuki pass to take his position. And then Danny
Yeah.
tries to act innocent about it at the end of the race. I'm just like, guys,
But
come
then
on.
Yuki though blew his top a little bit. Almost ran into Danny.
I don't think he
Did
almost
you see
ran.
that? Yes.
He locked his brakes going past him on the in lap, like to the pits, and then he drove past him on turn 7 into turn 8 into turn 9. I don't like. It's
I think that
definitely
was
it's a
intentional.
bit hot headed, but at the same time, I can see where he's coming from because that like nothing about that situation was right.
No, they shouldn't be calling team orders on the first
No,
race
not at
when
all.
they're P13 and 14.
If it's not for points, it's not worth it.
It's not.
At
It's
that
not
point,
worth
just
it.
let them drive the race.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because Danny couldn't probably get past Yuki any other way.
Yeah.
And
Um.
Yuki actually had a shot at getting past Magnussen, I
Yeah.
think.
Had they been
If
stuck
he
like
didn't
that, he
have to
probably had a better
focus on, like,
chance.
yeah, switching around, he probably would have gotten it done
Yeah.
by the end. So,
One thing I do want to talk about in this, we're gonna call him VCarb because it just fits. Visa Cash App, Red Bull, but whatever. We're just calling VCarb. One thing about the VCarb
Racing
team,
Bulls,
yes.
not Red Bull, Racing Bulls.
One thing I do want to talk about this
Can be
team
that
is
affiliated.
we have I want to say 10 season Grand Prix driver versus a 4 season one. Um, Danny Rick trying to drive for a better seat in Formula One. Yuki obviously is too. He's been on the junior team for this is his fourth year now. Um, Yuki's on pace with Danny Rick, if not faster now, and he's also leading RB going into the first race.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that on the stat sheet it's Danny Rick ahead in 13 instead of Yuki.
Because
Yeah,
they artificially switch them, yeah.
I think Yuki's actually getting faster, like
Well, yeah, he's got
significant.
to.
So this like the steady
He's
trend
learning so
of
much each
Yuki.
year. It's
Yes,
really great to see.
it's phenomenal. I also think that Danny Rick's falling off a little bit, right?
Don't say that.
It's nothing against him,
Don't go
but
that
you
far.
like you're looking at a driver who, like, he got the chance to drive around Max's Red Bull, right? And he got the chance to test with the Red Bull. He got a chance to drive the AlphaTauri last year, so he knows where Yuki was. It's not like he didn't drive the car at all. So they're on
Mhm.
equal footing. If Danny Rick not on better footing from like how much experience and the types of cars they got to drive.
Well, I would just say they probably run a different strategy. Having
Yes.
ended up on different tires at the end of the race, they run
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
strategies. So it's hard to say.
Yeah. I want to
We'll
like
see. We'll
I
follow them closely throughout the season to
yeah.
see if
They look a
if they
lot
can.
faster than this race showed.
I know. I was very disappointed with the results,
Mm. I think these results aren't very
but not
telling.
as disappointed as you with Alex behind them.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. It sucks. And Williams finally caught up to the rest of the field, actually having a steering wheel now.
Yeah.
But
Then
I
the
think the
steering
steering wheel
wheel.
actually ended up being the thing that screwed over both Logan and
Yeah.
Alex. Because Alex's
Yeah.
steering wheel wasn't working. Logan's steering wheel told him he was having a problem with his car, even though there was no problem with the car. And then they took a,
Yeah.
yeah, and so they switched out the steering wheel for both of them at their pit stops. It's like,
Yeah.
if it's gonna be a problem, just revert it back to the chassis.
Yeah, no, I don't think they need to do all that. They'll figure it out. But it's like that. It's that meme where the guy's like skateboarding on a rake, and like, have you seen that? Someone in the comments, please tell me you've seen this thing where the guy, and then it just like lands, and it's like the same ending,
Yeah.
but it's just like random ways to get there. And that I feel like that's Logan P20.
Yeah.
Like every race, like you're looking at it, and there's different things to go on, but somehow Logan just ends up in last.
hmm Um,
I feel bad. I don't know. I want him to do so much better.
so, I think we can skip past the rest of the drivers. There's not much. Nico qualified in the top 10, but Haas being Haas, he fell backward. Actually, I do want to talk
Yeah.
about this for Haas real quick. K-Mag scored more points last year than Nico. Nico
hmm
qualified better in almost every race.
Yeah. So if Haas can give Nico a better race pace car, then he can score more points. That's
Yeah, but also it also shows you the consistency that like K-Mag is a phenom in his qualifying, but his drive, like his racing is abysmal. K-Mag is
mm-hmm.
the opposite. His qualifying is not terrible, but it's not great. And he does
Mm-hmm.
like I think he skimmed into the top 15. And then he ends up driving into the points. Not this race, of course, but just in general,
Yeah.
it's like he's got such a consistent drive style, and I love it. I don't
Yeah.
think they're gonna go far, but I love it.
Okay, but let me just ask you: is Alpine the new Haas?
Alpine are probably gonna bounce back. I think they're gonna be fighting with Williams. I think this year we'll have a much instead of four teams fighting for 7, 8, 9, 10. I think we'll have Williams and Alpine fighting for 7, 8, and then Haas and Sauber fighting for 9, 10. I'm also might be
Uh,
overhyping Williams a little bit. I think they sacrificed quite a bit of straight line speed compared to where they were last year.
but like, what about Alpine though? They're going through like a whole restructuring phase.
Yeah, but
You
they
think they
have
can get the car back to where it
yes,
was at least?
yeah. Also, they just have like they have more money than Williams and Haas and Stake. So
Okay.
their
Do they have more money than Haas?
Haas isn't running at the cost cap.
Not again. They're not.
I don't think they were last year, and if they were, they did not look like it.
They definitely were.
Mhm. Also Haas. Well, oh, okay. Let's just talk about this part. Haas lost Simone Resta, who was their chief technical officer at the end of last year. He came. So Simone Resta, for reference, came from Ferrari when Haas decided to become part, like, since their parts factory is part of the Ferrari part factory.
hmm
And so Simon Resto works for Haas, but he's the liaison between them. Anyways, he stopped working for Haas, and just at the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix, Alpine lost both their chief aerodynamicist and their chief technical director.
Yes. You think there's a move to be made there?
Potentially, there's a lot of people flying around right now. Um, I don't think it's gonna matter too much in the long term of things because these I think the bottom 14 still aren't looking great. Um,
So, talking about people floating around, Gunther Steiner. Apparently, the rumor is that he came to Gene Haas and said, "I have someone I can bring to you that'll give like a huge
I think it
investment
was 20
into the
million
team."
was the quoted number.
Something crazy. But and then Gene didn't want to give Gunther any stake in the team, and
Yeah,
so that's why they parted ways. I mean, obviously, Gunther Steiner is going to still have that relationship with whoever he was trying to get that investment put in. So, do you think he'll make a move
I think he
to
did. I think he
Alpine?
has a job. He became an analyst at a
Okay, but
local.
that's not what he really wants to do.
Well, you never know. I mean, he could just want to take a break from Formula One.
Okay.
So he has a job for the season, that is, and I think he's contracted to it, which is kind of weird, but whatever. So he has a job for the season. It'd be cool, like interesting to see him back, but I don't think we'll see
Hmm.
him back, honestly. It's not like he has like a fantastic resume. Like, I mean,
No.
yeah. It's his resume is like a Ferrari, honestly. It looks really good at the start, and then as you just keep going along, it just looks worse and worse.
Jeez, that is just all too accurate.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
This year we have two Grand Prix in back-to-back weekends. Last year I think we had a 3 week break between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Um,
I'm happy that they're just going right at it.
yeah. Um, Before we jump into other stuff, I want to know what your predictions are for Saudi Arabia. It doesn't have to be like positions or anything, but just tell me like some interesting things you think might happen during the race or qualifying or so on and so forth.
Not interesting, but I think Max is going to do very well there.
Yeah.
Science will also excite, I think. If Leclerc can get the car working for him and they fix the brake issues, he'll definitely be quick in qualifying, I think. And hopefully Mercedes and McLaren can be up there fighting. So we'll get like a good mix of the top 5 teams and the top 10. Uh, I have no idea. It's hard to see like what kind of pace the bottom 5 teams have. But I'd like to see some of them like sneak in. I'd like to see Alex maybe sneak into top 10 qualifying.
Yeah.
You never know.
Um, you didn't say anything about Checo.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about him. I know he won last year, and I know he's good at street circuits.
Okay.
Um,
So for reference,
but I don't know where I'm at with him.
yeah.
I really don't know what to expect.
For reference, Jeddah's been around for 3 years. Well, not the city, the
Mm,
race. The race has been around for 3 years. Yeah,
obviously.
just making sure. Lewis took the first pole position there after Max had the best lap to never finish. But Checo's taken the other two pole positions there, even when everybody was like, Lewis or Charles or Max might take pole. It's like Checo has won that race, and he's like, he won last year. He got pole position the last 2 years. You think maybe in qualifying he might show
I
out?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
I will eat my words, but I just don't think he's gonna have the best performance there.
Mhm.
It's gonna be expected, but I don't think it'll happen.
I don't think it's expected, and I think probably a lot of people are taking the same chance as you just because I mean,
Yeah.
the first race of the season, he finished 21 seconds behind Max. So I think
Mhm.
the expectation is Max to
Mhm.
take another pole position. Like I think the expectation for every race, just like last year, is Max is gonna win and take pole
Yeah.
position and probably take the fastest lap.
I think Charles could probably put together a pole lap. Like that's the thing, right?
Yeah, in Q2.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just throwing random stuff out here.
interesting.
Lando's gonna get second row qualifying.
You didn't say
Random
third,
stuff.
so I'm gonna say you're thinking fourth to match his
Yeah,
number.
yeah.
Um, my prediction is I'm gonna say Checo Carlos front roll. Um,
So Max P3 or what? What
yeah,
happens to Max?
I think Charles isn't
I
gonna be in the
always
first two
want to
rolls.
say that Max is out for the count, but
It's
last
not.
year my fantasy took a toll because I kept thinking that Max was going to DNF
Yeah.
or something. I don't even. Did he even DNF once last season?
No. He finished every single
Yeah,
race.
that's insane.
He drove every
That is
lap
insane.
of every race. Yeah. No, he's yeah.
That's statistically like improbable.
Yeah. Um. Okay. I want to talk about something pertaining to the cars. There's been some car comparisons between dominant cars, spectacular cars, and dominant eras. Uh,
Okay.
I think we can all agree that the fastest F1 car ever created was the W11. That was the 2020 iteration of the Mercedes. Um,
I'll
I
take
think
that.
Formula Addict has uh, a visual of it, but they showed the 2005, no, 2004 Ferrari, the 2023, the RB19, the W11, and Seb's RB7 or RB6 from 2013, the one that he won 9 races in a row in. They showed the comparisons of the fastest laps in Bahrain, and the W11 wins out by like 1.5 seconds. That is a fast
There
car.
you go. There
um,
you go.
but okay, so this is a just a kind of interesting question I want to ask you. So W11 obviously fastest car ever created. 2020, Lewis won 13 out of 17 races. Small calendar because of COVID. Um,
Hmm.
do you think there's a difference between a dominant car versus a dominant season?
Yes, that was a dominant car because, well, he was driving with Valtteri, and Valtteri had wins that season, right?
I think he had two, but yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, Max had a dominant season.
yes,
The car led him to that. So it's hard to say that that
mm,
was not a dominant car. But maybe when you put it together, you have to say both the cars were dominant.
yeah,
And that only happens when both the drivers are competitive.
yeah. That's fair to say.
And last year, Checo fell off. He
Yes.
wasn't reliable. He couldn't be counted on in the last half of the season, pretty much.
Hmm.
So, can you say it was a dominant car? Yes.
Hmm.
But was it the most dominant? Probably not. Could it have been? Definitely. If Checo wasn't the driver driving that Red Bull last year.
Yeah.
So
But you can't say
I
that
think there
Valtteri was
there is a
competitive
difference.
either, no? Like,
You can
come on.
say he was. I mean, he was there to
During the
win
first
some
half of the
races.
season.
Oh, yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I
It's
think
hard to say.
if we take away just the sheer number of races, right? Because I think a
Mhm.
lot of the stats have to do with the number of races. It's unfair to judge how dominant a car is based on the number of races because at that point, there's no car that's going to be more dominant than the RB19 because
Mhm.
there's 22 races that season. There's no other
Yes.
season besides 2022 with 22 races in a season. Um,
Yeah.
But if we take away that, and just look at it numerically, the RB19 versus the W11 versus the 2004 Ferrari.
But doesn't that all have to do with regulations, making the cars slower?
Also, I'm taking away the idea of just times because I think in each of these
Okay.
areas, these cars all were miles ahead of the competition. Like the
Okay.
W11 was
So then,
unbelievably.
is there really a point in comparing
Mm,
like the rates of dominance? Can't we just admire that they were all dominant in their time?
fair take.
I
That's just all, that
don't
was really
know.
what I was trying to ask, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it's fair to say that Red Bull and Mercedes have dominated in the last 2 decades.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, as long as I've been alive.
Well,
I mean,
back
I know
to
Ferrari's sprinkled in
2000
there, but
and 2009, I'd say.
for okay, so I
Last
guess
decade and a half. Yeah.
yeah, so that's close enough to two
Mhm.
decades. Honestly, it's a long time.
Do you kind of
Um,
wish that Formula One was like in a place like where it was, let's say 2007 to 2010?
well, you know what? I saw something interesting actually. That there are so many racing series out there
Hmm.
that you can find everything you have a fault with F1 somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like if you want competition to be close, like you're driving the same car, you can literally find that.
Yeah.
So many different series. So this is a car building contest
Yeah.
along with a driving contest. So I don't know. I think if you have a problem with certain aspects of F1 where like, oh, it's so unfair because,
Mm.
you know, Max has the best car, so the best car is gonna well, yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
You have to build the best car
Yes.
with the regulations. Like if you want like stock cars, they're all the same.
Hmm.
Go to what, NASCAR, Indy. Um, I don't know. And then you'll find great driving there too.
Mm.
Great racing. Uh,
On the topic of
so,
Indy,
yeah.
I've looked at quite a few things, and apparently IndyCar is like, as far as negative complaints, IndyCar has some of the fewest of them because the racing is much closer. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the cars are very close to each other. It's really a lot of different, like, driver skill is very, very apparent. Um,
Hmm.
and so I'm kind of,
It's
what are your,
surprising to see Roman Grosjean doing pretty well
yeah.
there at certain times,
Um,
even though he'd be thought to be like a not great F1 driver because of the cars he's been in.
Yeah, but also like if you put Roman Grosjean next to Lewis on a Mercedes, you think he's going far?
Okay, fair
No.
enough. No, no, no. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
Okay.
Fair
But
enough.
I do have a question. So we saw last year, the previous IndyCar champion, what is it, Alex Palou, like
Mhm.
kind of flubbed the McLaren contract. Um,
Yeah, well,
how badly do you want to see an IndyCar driver in F1? Because I really kind of want to see one.
yeah, it just doesn't need to be Alex Palou. I don't blame him though because McLaren's pretty set on their lineup.
Yeah.
I don't see them switching, so he needs to find other opportunities to make money and drive.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I like Pato Award better, so like personally, I'm fine with Alex Palou like moving on.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I do want to see an Indy driver. I want that to be a viable path for drivers to take to get to F1.
Hmm.
It's not right now. It's
Okay.
kind of where F1 talent goes to die. But
Okay. So
okay, what were you gonna say?
Off of F1, I want to talk about Formula One Academy.
Okay,
I think they're officially streaming it on the F1 TV app.
good.
First race weekend is Jeddah, and they're going from the 6th to
Oh,
the 8th. So they're going to be on track before the F1 drivers.
I
And
really
actually,
hope
that's
that they
tomorrow.
promote this well.
Yes.
They're going on tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow's the 6th.
Oh, because it starts on a Wednesday, not a Thursday, because the race is on Saturday.
Yes. Well, the race for the Academy is on Friday. So you know
But the
how,
F1 race
yeah,
is
the
on
F1 race on
Saturday.
Saturday, yes. So they try to offset all of the sessions. So you'll have Formula One
Hmm.
Academy, Formula Two, Formula Three, Formula One, and then throughout the rest of the weekend, they'll be kind of every, honestly, you get a lot of Formula action this like when all four of them are in, which is really
That's
nice to see.
awesome.
So, um, are you
There's
excited
a
for the McLaren driver?
Bianca.
Yeah,
Yes and no. Like I don't know. You're much more of a fan of her than I am.
I'm a fan of
Like
Leah
I
Block.
okay, the
Williams.
Williams driver. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that they've gotten sponsorship and money to do this.
Hmm.
Susie Wolf's done a great job. There's a big Charlotte Tilbury um, connection going on. There's a whole car,
Hmm.
which you won't know this brand, but it's like a makeup beauty brand that's pretty well known. It's a big deal
What's it called?
to have Charlotte Tilbury, I think, something like that. The car has like lips all over. It's a really cool livery, actually.
Oh, interesting.
If you haven't seen it, and they're sponsoring both a car and just the F1 Academy in general.
Mm.
So that
Um,
was a good get by Susie Wolf and whoever her team is.
so just like last year, this year's F1 Academy grid is going to have 15 drivers. Um, five of them are picked by teams who don't have filled spots. 10 of the drivers will be for each of the F1 teams. So every F1 team has one driver in F1 Academy. All of the
Mhm.
five other drivers are picked up by teams. Um, I think, what's her name?
Is there a set of sisters?
Yes, the Alcabasi sisters.
Okay.
Last year, one of them like was putting up a pretty good fight for the championship up until round six, and
Okay.
then Marta kind of just ran away with it. So
She's starting to become a Jamie Chadwick where she's outgrowing the
yeah,
league.
it's kind of nice to see though. No,
Um, yeah, no, that's what needs to happen.
is
That's what
she?
happens in F2. Um, in F3. So
Is she driving in F3 now?
Jamie Chadwick
No,
or Marta?
Martha.
Not sure.
I don't think so. There is a female driver in Formula 3 though. Um,
That's good to
she's
hear.
a
Good
Dutch
to hear.
driver by the name of Sophia Florsch. Or no, sorry, not Dutch. I got that way off. Sorry, German driver by the name of Sophia
Well,
Florsch. And she drives for Van Amersfoort, which is
that
how Max started his racing career.
okay. Is that the Dutch connection?
Yes. Um,
Yes.
but very excited to see how she does as well. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see, if a female driver can actually like, kind of put a foot into Formula 3, Formula 2, and not just like getting there through money or, because she's a female, but actually by raw
Yes.
talent. I would love to see that.
Yes. The only thing
Um,
I'll say is those F3 cars aren't really designed for women.
no, they're not. So if she does it, it'll be even more impressive.
It would be really impressive. Yes.
Um, but they are trying to make the F3 cars. I think Stefano Domenicali, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, not my favorite guy right now.
No,
And
not ever really.
and
Controversial.
Susie Wolf. Did I get that name wrong? No.
No, you're good.
Okay, just making sure. I don't know. Okay, Susie Wolf. All
If you're
three of them have been working
thinking of
together.
Toto's wife, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Uh, all three of them have been working really hard to make sure that they're trying to compare the Formula F1 Academy cars to F4. So the
Okay.
general setups for them are the same, and Formula One Academy is going to be an inlet to Formula 3. And so hopefully
That's
the
good. We
champions
can
that
get
come,
some
yeah,
women into Formula 3.
and see how that goes. And so they're also, with that, they're also
I
trying to
love
get,
that.
yeah. With that, they're also trying to get the Formula 3 cars onto the specs that the F1 Academy cars have as far as like the chassis for the female form.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's great news.
Yes. So it's very good. I like it's actually really cool.
Mhm.
Development in my eyes is one of the most important things in all aspects. Um, and so yeah, had a bit of a longer episode today, but
Lots to talk about.
yeah, there's actually so much more to talk about, but
We haven't
um,
even scratched the surface.
yeah.
Oh, I mean,
Next week will be Jeddah. We'll be talking about that. And then the week after we have a break, so then we can talk about the other cool stuff that's been happening in the background. Hopefully,
mhm.
Christian Horner stuff is done, and we get some more. We get to see how Formula Two and Formula Three, F1 Academy are shaping up compared to F1. And yeah, anything from you?
As you can see, we're both learning a lot more about other racing series, so we'll have that sprinkled in as well. And yeah, and just like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make um, YouTube episodes, podcasts, but it's so fun for us. So
Yeah.
we hope someone's out there listening and likes the content.
Also, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm in a new place. We're trying to get it set up so it's gonna be in person more. That's on me. I haven't finished getting everything set up on my computer and also in my new place. So, hopefully by like May, June time, I'll have everything set up and we'll be in person a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
looking forward to that. And until next time.
It's lights out and away we go.